there's a million different views of what Bitcoin is, but my view of Bitcoin is Bitcoin represents technology to deliver property rights to 8 billion people on the planet. Yeah. Because the number one thing holding Bitcoin back is the 17,000 other crypto assets that are unregulated, that are creating noise and volatility and anxiety in the system. And so that's a liability. I think if you don't have property rights, then your life is hopeless. So anybody in the world without the ability to store economic energy in the form of property or in the form of a proper money can't plan for the future. I liken it to being a type 1 diabetic where you can't form fat. So if you can't actually store energy for the future, then by definition, your life is hopeless. I think that the best money that we had for 10,000 years was gold, but we know that gold is imperfect money and we can trace thousands and thousands of wars to it. And we can trace tens of thousands of stories of people that saved their money in gold to have it seized or lost. Parts of the world had assets that they could use to store economic value, maybe the United States and Europe. But there are parts of the world like South America and Africa that not in thousands of years have actually had proper property rights or proper monetary assets. So their life has been hopeless and continues. They continue to struggle. Right? There are like 10 currency collapses in Argentina over the course of 200 years. The US dollar is the winner in every war in the 20th century, and it's lost 99.7% of its value in 90 years and is on track to lose 99.9% of its value in 100 years. That's the best one, right? So every other one was worse than 99.9%. A theoretical perfect money would be an immutable ledger that's mathematically correct. That means whatever your math system is, if it's 100 million coins, 1 billion coins, 1,000 coins, then 10 stays equal to 10. So if you had a mathematically correct ledger, it was shared by everybody in the world. No one could corrupt it and change it. If it was run by a deity, it was non-corruptible, you'd have perfect money. In the absence of God wanting to run the monetary system, the next best idea is you create a computer software program that will run such shared immutable ledger by letting anybody in the world run that software and having all the nodes on the network check each other and kick off the corrupt nodes in order to maintain a degree of integrity and virtue in the system. So Bitcoin is an approximation of a perfect monetary system because it is correct. It has no inflation in it. It's not corruptible because it's decentralized. The rules are what make it mathematically correct. I think the second quarter of 2020, the policy response to the pandemic was to lock down most of the economy in the world. And the monetary response was to lower interest rates to zero and start pumping money into the economy through asset purchases, and to loosen bank loan lending restrictions, lower the reserve ratio. And that happened everywhere in the world. And you saw something which, I kind of view as perverse, which is the stock market recovered to an all-time high at the time when the economy was the most dysfunctional in our lifetime. And so in the year 2020, you could say, if you were a Wall Street company, and if you did nothing for the entire year, you had the best year of your life, you were up 30%, you made a fortune. The problem with a weakening currency is you're continually transferring energy from the working class to the propertied class, right? And you're making it exponentially harder for the working class to rise in society or to acquire anything of value, and you're making it exponentially easier for the property class to remain entrenched in power. And that seemed to me to be grossly unfair. There's a million different views of what Bitcoin is, but my view of Bitcoin is Bitcoin represents technology to deliver property rights to 8 billion people on the planet. Yeah. The faster that the society regulates it, the faster it'll grow. Well, because the number one thing holding Bitcoin back is the 17,000 other crypto assets that are unregulated, that are creating noise and volatility and anxiety in the system. And so that's a liability to the asset class. And then I think the other thing holding it back is that there's $100 trillion of capital that's afraid to enter into the network because they see the 17,000 other crypto assets and they're waiting to see how the regulations will evolve. Like, am I worried about regulation? No, I think it's impossible that the automobile or electricity or airplanes would be deployed broadly in society without speed limits, traffic lights, certificates of occupancy, elementary safety. Fire, every single building in civilization, right? There's a fire inspection before you move into it. So will regulation help or hurt in the adoption of buildings and in the adoption of fire? I have a publicly traded company, right? And you can read my 10K, it's 123 pages, and we spend millions of dollars a year to remain compliant. Okay, and the fact that people trust those filings means that we can raise billions of dollars of capital, and every day hundreds of millions of dollars trades hands based upon the representation of those filings. If we eliminated all those filings, my company would be no better than any of 100 million other companies, and everyone would simply claim the same exact thing. That the economy would not work if you had a lack of some normative standards in order for people to engage with each other at high velocity with large sums of energy. If you parse every word by Gary Gensler for the past 5 years, what he said is Satoshi's innovation is real. He recognizes the existence of decentralized digital property, and that is not a security. He said that there is a place for a stable coin, a digital currency. He's implying that the world would like dollars to circulate on some kind of crypto system. He's implied that trading 24/7, 365 is an advance. Technology is good. And if you offer a security to the general public, you have a duty of transparency to them so they can make a rational decision, right? And the thing that's holding the industry back is an ambiguity about the definition of a digital security versus digital property. And because there's so much ambiguity, you have thousands and thousands and thousands of digital securities that are competing with the digital property. And if you're a rational person, and if you can't distinguish, and you're looking from the outside and you say, well, I'm sure there's 1,000 digital securities out there that are currently unregulated, that are being treated like commodities, I think that would give you pause. People look and say, well, Bitcoin's highly volatile, I'm afraid to own it. Where's the volatility coming from? It's coming from the excessive leverage, the unregistered securities that are cross-collateralized into the asset class. It's coming from immature tax regulation. If you sell $1 billion of Apple stock and you buy it back 18 minutes later, right? That's a wash trade. You can't take a tax write-off on that because you didn't actually dispose of the asset. You were just trading it back and forth. If you did the same thing with a crypto asset, you could. So there's an incentive for someone to wash trade aggressively with leverage crypto assets. Why? No good reason. If you thought about it a while, you would say, if you're going to have a tax law that says you have to wait 30 days before you buy something back in order to take a deduction against it, you should probably be consistent, right? And a fungible share of Apple stock looks like a fungible token of Bitcoin. They both kind of look the same. In a society where one thing is treated differently than the other thing, either with more leverage or you're encouraged to trade it with volatility, you shouldn't be surprised that you get that volatility. I don't really think they're about Bitcoin, right? If you look at the crypto economy, you could divide and segment the market into crypto property, cryptocurrency, crypto securities, crypto art, crypto platforms, crypto exchanges. Bitcoin's crypto property. It's the apex crypto property, and it's 100 times bigger than the next viable crypto property. And the regulatory question, the big one, is, are you allowed to own property? And the answer in North Korea and Cuba is no. Right? The answer in China is sort of sometimes for a while. We're back and forth, right? Right? Do you own your house, or you have it for 70 years or 100 years or whatever? But mostly, yes, you can own property. In Western Europe and the US, generally you can own property. So the other regulatory questions are, what's a crypto exchange? Okay, so how much leverage can you trade with? Right? Who's responsible? Is a DeFi system an exchange? I think a lot of people think yes. Is it decentralized? No, not really. They don't think it's decentralized. They've said that. So is a token, this token, is this equity or is this property? If it's equity, what kind of disclosures do you need to make on the equity? And what's your civil and criminal liability on the promotion and the trading of that token? Those are all outstanding questions that'll have an impact on everything other than Bitcoin. So when you say, what regulation are we waiting for? Well, we're waiting for the definition of a cryptocurrency, a crypto security, a crypto platform, a crypto exchange, and then lines as to what you can do with a currency and exchange or a security. And we don't have bright line guidance, which means that entrepreneurs are left to do something, and they either have to do something knowing that they're taking some kind of future risk, right? Or they have to do nothing.